my question to the panel are how and when did the pharma and health, I want to broaden that to the health industry, become a villain industry, and why? I have a theory that I'll leave you to at the end, but not only when and why did it become a villain industry, but must it necessarily remain there? Is that simply the cost of doing business, or is there something that the industry can do about it?
Part of the way you turn these problems around is not to kind of roll over and, please sir, may I have another. A lot of it becomes standing up for what's right, and I think explaining what safety means and explaining the value of innovation and explaining the value of failure and explaining that drugs don't come, generally speaking, from NIH science goes a long way, and it is an uphill battle, and it's one that's worth fighting.
I mean, I got to see a lot of the conduct that is not the kind of conduct we should engage in when we're in a caring business for patients. We are not selling refrigerators. We are not selling shoes. And I'm not trying to malign those consumer products. This is medicine, and it's about earning trust. And I think that we could talk a lot about communications. It's not only how you communicate, it's how you practice. And I do think that there were some practices back in the 90s, I have to go before Vioxx, back in the 90s, and the way sales representatives may have interacted before the code of interactions came out from pharma, that were not the kinds of things we should have been engaging in, being in the kind of business and in the earning trust. That is not what we should have been doing. And
I'm always somewhat put off when I'm greeted by a group of leaders of any sort of organization, and every one of those leaders, be it man or woman that I speak to, thinks that they are the smartest guy in the room. Those people scare me. Okay, so I don't think they're the best people to have out leading the charge. But the other thing I would say is that, and I trained my reporters this way, that if you ask a question of someone and their first response is that's a good question, don't believe anything they say after that. I always say that and if I trained people for media, I would train them to not say that's a good question, because honestly, I just think that's to me that's a red flag. So when you're asked a question, you can pause. You don't have to answer immediately, but filling the space with "that's a good question" probably triggers a lot of people in the audience to think, "Oh, here we go."
Before we start embracing the cliche that we have to tell our side of the story, what if you don't have one? What if it's awful? And so you really have to, not every side of the story is good. So, I do think it has to be anchored somewhat in reality, or else what you end up getting is no comment, which sometimes is the best of your horrible options.